pretty safe to say. God give it, God take it away. It's the worldwide American way.
What's going on, team? Proof here, and hope you guys don't mind a little bit of a different setup, like format wise, that I have going on here. But I'm trying to get some things set up just to make recording a little bit easier for me and have some more uniformity going on. But I'm back with the Squad Report 2. This is Tuesday, so there's a chance that Bushiroad might have a stream going up with more Spike stuff. And I chose to put this out now, that way if more Spike stuff do come out, I have a chance to digest those cards, and then this one will go up and then everybody can enjoy those two separately. Excuse me. But we have like 5 or 6 cards maybe that was released between last video and this video, so I'm just going to go through them and then we're going to just talk about them on a little general baseline level. So first card we have is Chill Girl Marilyn. She is back. Our old school PG is now back in her new form, being a draw trigger. So you get a double up effect because with the advent of V-Series, Bushiroad decided to make draw triggers. Some draw triggers have the Sentinel ability to make up for the fact that some of them kept the old 5,000 shield value. So now you have more reason to play some draw triggers, at least in standard, because there's currently no other PG options, no other PG options. So we have draw triggers that grant Sentinel ability, and they also give you the chance to be checked as a draw trigger, so that way you get some double benefit from them, which is really nice. And on the standard side, as I mentioned, we kind of are forced into playing it, which is not too bad unless you were one of those people that wanted to play 12 crit. Now, if I'm mistaken, I haven't seen any other PGs like I mentioned before, but maybe something snuck in under the radar that I'm not aware of. But in premium, this kind of opens up a door for spikes because, as you know, we have Cunning Brain as our charge PG, which has been really good for us as of set 13. And it's kind of opened up a couple avenues to where you may want to consider playing Marilyn, because we already use a lot of draw triggers, and it'll be kind of nice to make that space for other things once the set is all played out, depending on how the decks line up, of course, not apparently. But you may want to consider using Marilyn in some capacity to make space for other grade 1 options that you want to be using. So it'll be interesting to see how that comes out once everything is fleshed out. And then we got white tight end. Bushiroad finally gave Spikes a bear. I really appreciate it. Like, of course, if you guys couldn't tell, bear is my favorite animal. I'm a little sad that it's a polar bear and not a grizzly bear, because those are my personal favorite bears, but I'll take a bear where I can get them. And white tight end, he says auto on rear guard when it attacks. If you have 4 or more rear guards, this unit gets plus 10,000 power to the end of that battle. And it's a grade 1. I'm sorry, I tried to make these a little bit nicer, but I could tell you, I could realize that it kind of cut off some of the information, but I'll just go ahead and give that information to you, being that it's a grade 1. And needing 4 more rear guards is kind of tough, because on the standard side there's already Kagero, which, like every other card that they have, can burn something of ours. So on that front, it isn't as promising as a big 4-spot card. And then in the premium side, there's, of course, you have like Link Joker, still Kagero, even Narukami. You have a whole bunch of other means to be able to lock down our board that might not make white tight end worthwhile there, but you have some more room to be able to utilize it in standard side, because there's less removal options presently outside of Kagero, because the only other means to do it is like Blaster Blade or by raw attacking into one of your units, which takes pressure off our Vanguard, which also gives us more time to be able to put our pieces together to be able to push back on the opponent. So on that front, it might be good to commit for white tight ends plus 10k, and then it sits in the front row, so it means your opponent has to waste an attack on a grade 1, which is good value for us over the course of the game. And being another source of power gives like Bracky, Juggernaut Maximum, Wonder Boy, all these cards that gain power outside of being on the 4th circle could just keep adding up over time, which puts a lot of pressure on our opponent. And in the case of us having a whole lot of power to push through, if it outweighs the amount of removal options our opponent has, granted they have an attack every turn on their Vanguard that they can use, we can eventually come over the top on them because our threats outweigh their removal options, which is really good. And for white tight end here, you need to commit for it, but the next card I'm going to show helps synergizes with it, but then also it gives you the chance to be able to be more aggressive on the front end. Like against Kagero, before their removal options become available too quickly, you can just load up the board and then try to push through. I wouldn't advise that unless something comes out that can help facilitate that better, just because it's kind of hard to overcommit that way. But I see some promise for white tight end on the standard side, and I'm excited that we finally have a bear that we could probably utilize. And the card that synergizes with white tight end is Unite Attacker, the card that nobody really cared about back in set 1 because it was a Mega Blast and it was awful. But he's a new grade 3. He has the Force Mark, the Force Gift, and he is auto on Vanguard, once per turn, of course. Soul Blast 7, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, call up to 5 from them, and then put the rest on the bottom of your deck. And then 3 of your units in the front row get plus 5,000 to the end of turn. So the use of this card is very much contingent on what General Safe Read does, but I can see a world where this is like a tech 1-of option as like a late game board refill and push through card, because depending on our options for getting soul, because we already have a one guaranteed spot in Zachary that I featured in the last video, but there's like Bracky, Jugs, Wonder Boy, they could all gain soul, but they must live for a turn, which is harder against Kagero than it is against other matchups. But even in those other matchups, because you won't always run into Kagero, you can have this card as a backup option to be able to reload your board with some pieces if things run low in the late game. And they'll need to be called to open rear guard circle, so you can call over stuff that you don't have any more value, getting more value out of, which is really good. And it kind of gives your front row a pseudo 15,000 depending on how you disperse your force markers, or if you have 3 set up already, because each force circle gets plus 10 if you have them in the front row, and then the units that are on the front row after you resolve his ability get an additional plus 5. And then on top of that, a lot of your cards that you can potentially have in your front row as attackers get power as well. So Bracky gets plus 10, Just gets plus 10. If you call white tight end, he gets plus 10. So you have a lot of these additional power gains, which if you pressure your opponent consistently throughout the game, your opponent may not be able to deal with all those at such a sudden moment if Unite Attacker can resolve effectively. So it kind of comes down to what Safe Read does, and if we get another soul option to be able to use, because as of now, if he's going to be a late game card, you already get a +1 soul from that, but then you need to get another soul option to get that extra 2 to 3 that you were going to need, because Zachary already covers 1 for you. So I see it as a 1-of option, maybe in a 9 grade 3 build, because you're going to be using Juggernaut Maximum most likely, and then 4 of General Safe Read most likely. So this would be that 9th piece that you throw in there, but it remains to be seen. So I'm optimistic, cautiously optimistic about what Unite Attacker can do, and it'll be cool to finally see this card, see some competitive play. And then our last card is Gyro Slinger, which was an awful card back in, what was the name of that set? It's the set where Deli Emperor came with Spectre Duke and all those other cards. It was an extra booster, but his old ability was terrible, so I'm glad he got revamped as a grade 1. He's our double R in the set, or one of the double Rs. Can't remember if we get 1 or 2, but he is auto on Vanguard or Rear Guard. When placed, you can put a card from your hand into the soul, so not every card we have can escape the old Spike Brothers cost method. Look the top cards from your deck equal to your opponent's Vanguard grade, call up to 1 card from them, put the rest on the bottom in any order, and then the call unit gets plus 5,000 to the end of turn. And he's an 8,000 grade 1, and this card is really good. Like, this is definitely double R worthy, because what it can do is it can help facilitate early game aggression, and then as you get later into the game, it scales upward because your Vanguard grade is going to increase, so you have more chances to dig for a good card that you might want to call. Like if your hand is a bunch of shields and you don't have a lot of options for aggression, you can put Gyro Slinger on the board, and then you can check your top 3 because your Vanguard might be a grade 3 at that time. Get Bracky or Juggernaut Maximum or something like that, call that to the board, and then put your cards back to the bottom. So you've thinned your deck out and you kind of shuffle stuff to the bottom, which may increase your trigger odds depending on what you see there in front of you. So you also put that thought on your opponent's head that you might have more triggers available now because you just sifted 3 to the bottom, or called 1, sifted 2 cards to the bottom, and then you have this extra unit that you have on the board that wasn't there beforehand, and it kind of gets a pseudo plus 13,000 because Gyroslinger being an 8k, and then the call unit gets plus 5, and then Gyroslinger can boost the card that you called. It just adds up to be a pressure filled card, and that's just on the standard side. And then on the premium side, it has a lot of interactions with like Bad End or Hellhard 8 if the deck evolves into something like that. So it has a lot of applications, and it's a really solid card, and I look forward to what it can do. You can play Zachary on 2, and then you can top call this card. It gives Zachary another card you can top call, and then you top call this card because he's only on place. He's not when he's placed from hand like some cards are. So you call him off a Zachary skill, and then you resolve his skill to look at your top 2 cards because you'll be on grade 2 at that time. Call something else in front of that, and then you get a +1 essentially because you get a called card, and then the card from Gyroslinger just goes back, and then Gyroslinger goes to Soul, so you get a +1 Soul, which feeds you Night Attacker or whatever cost Seyfried might have. So it kind of just synergizes and just keeps adding up, and all your cards, as more cards come out, get more and more synergistic with one another, which is really, really good for us. And it makes me excited, not puts me excited. It makes me excited for what the deck has in store for it, and we've only seen about 3/4 of our cards, and we're still missing some of our higher value cards. So I'm excited for what the deck has in store for itself, and I can't wait to see what the other cards have coming out for them. Oh, I lied, it's not the last card. We got boy Mecha Trainer's back. He comes back in. He's the generic V Series Forerunner, not Forerunner, but starter, where when you ride upon this card, you draw a card. So not as good as his predecessor, of course, but I'm glad to see Mecha Trainer got some love and he's now back. And who knows, it might just annoy somebody enough to where seeing Mecha Trainer come back might bring back old thoughts of old series cards. So that'd be fun to see. I'm all about causing despair on my opponent, kid. But I'm really excited for what the cards have in store. Hopefully the stream comes out today is Spikes related, so we get to see what Seyfried does, and then we can expect to see that video come out a few days from now. So that'll wrap it up for this video. That'll do it for me. Hope you enjoyed, and yeah, until next time, peace. Be easy.